I'm glad that you all are here, and good friend of mine, Brother Wayne, has agreed to join us today. And some of you may remember that Mount Shasta trip back in the day. I think Ra, that's my oldest son, he was 10 then. He's 33 now. And we did the Native American sweat, and Brother Wayne showed us so much of Qigong exercises and yoga exercises. And I know that at Wosei, Oakland, I shouldn't say Wosei, Oakland, but just a brother, now his name slipped out of my head. The book. So we've been reading Ancient Future. Brother Iman has been leading some studies with Brother Wayne's book on Ancient Future, and and now Wayne is actually got a tour happening in December, a retreat in is it Costa Rica?
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Ancient Future and some of his topics that he would like to present for us today. So I'm going to, I know that's not much of an introduction, Wayne, I'm sorry, but many of the people here are familiar with your great works, your scholarship, with Dr. Ivan van Sertima, Journal of African Civilization. And I first met Wayne at the lamppost. Was that where you were lecturing at the lamppost?
I think that was the first lecture that I did with when I started working with Ivan.
That was a great, and he was talking about African presence in early Asia. And for some reason, I had gotten on that subject, and there was an expert there showing slides, and he even showed a picture of Sai Baba, and I was reading about Sai Baba currently. Anyway, so many good times with Brother Wayne. My kids call him Uncle Wayne, and I just want to introduce Brother Wayne Chandler, great scholar, and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, my brother. It's always a pleasure. Always.
Yes.
So one of the things I'd like to do, kind of switch it up a little bit, is for people to drop in the chat topics that they'd like to look at and what they feel is highly relevant in today's world pertaining to discussions that lead, to either self-transformation or just environmental refinement and cultivation. So if I could have people just kind of drop some ideas in the chat in terms of directions that we can take this evening, so that we can hear what people really want to hear, as opposed to just having somebody come up, get in front of everybody, and ramble on about something that people may not give two hoots about.
Well, one subject that I've been seeing on social media, and I thought with the work that you did and Renoko did and Dr. Ivan van Sertima did, people are now saying that the Olmecs didn't have, the ancient Olmecs, those statues didn't have African DNA. Have you run across information like that?
I haven't run across anything like that, and I would be interested in trying to uncover how they would know such a thing, because as far as I know, the only remnants that are left regarding the Olmec civilization are those heads. In order to acquire DNA sampling, you have to have, some remains, either from graves or areas where bodies have been preserved, where samples can be taken to analyze genetic specifics. So, and to my knowledge, that's never been uncovered.
All right. All right. Yeah, you get on social media and well, somebody sent me something, and it was like a video where the guy was saying, "Oh, he was just saying that there's no African DNA in the Olmecs," and I thought that was odd. So we have three things in the chat, Wayne.
Okay.
Three, really four things. Three things in the chat.
I don't know what happened to everybody.
We all disappeared, all 20 of us.
You
We still
did
here.
on this computer. This computer is always doing something, man. I'll tell you.
Let me.
When I was in the Virgin Islands this summer,
Uh-huh.
it just went. I guess the terminology would be bonkers. Right in the middle of well, at the beginning of a presentation that I was doing,
Wow.
and I don't understand it.
Well, let me read. Well, okay, there's someone that's interested in your trip. All right, so the first thing is from Minister Alicia, 3D, 5D split. How people are going through genetic upgrades. Does this have anything to do with the yugas?
Yeah, it has a lot to do with the yugas, and we are going, I guess that's a good way to look at it, a genetic flip, as we navigate these upgrades. And the upgrades are going from 3D into 4D, which is basically our landing spot. And from 4D, providing that we have made the proper internal arrangements and cultivational directions, we then use that as a springboard to jump into 5D. This is the thing, you can't go from 3D to 5D without serious consequences. And that's something that a lot of people just really have a hard time understanding, that this is about frequency. And if you drop one of the things they always refer to with respect to Kemet is that the way the buildings of higher learning were constructed, there were very specific frequencies that were always active in those buildings. And if you had not gone through the proper development, the proper stages of expansion, you could not enter those buildings without creating substantial damage to your body mind. So being able to get into those buildings was a means of major self-development. And so we're in the same situation right now, whereas the building now is planet Earth. And the frequencies that are abounding right now are about transformation, but we have to take responsibility to activating, opening, refining, and cultivating our own internal networks, which, very few of us do. But we cannot make that jump to light speed from 3D into 5D without doing that kind of work. So the first thing is moving, doing the necessary internal cultivation and activation of our internal grid system. And the internal grid system is that system which really connects and integrates with the planetary grid system and allows the passage of 3D into 4D much easier. So the yugas, or ugas, as they're referred to in the Igbo tradition, they have a lot to do with where we are right now. And what's unique about the yugas or ugas, in the Igbo, they refer to this as the Uga Azi. And the Uga Azi corresponds to the yugas of the Kali Yuga. And this particular age is 432,000 years. And we entered it in 105 BC, if my memory holds correct. But no, it's 1305 BC. We entered the Kali, and the unique formation and design of the Kali is that all of the other ages are contained within it. And that's what makes the Kali so unique. None of the other ages have this specific design. And nobody really talks about this. But even if you apply common sense to the Kali and its arrangement, there's no way that the human race could go through 432,000 years of darkness to have this consistent, perpetual can of whoop-ass on us every single day. There's no way we would be able to withstand, such a challenge. So the thing with the Kali is that it's broken up into spaces where we actually move into cycles that allow human expansion and cultivation and movement into a higher based frequency, which will allow humanity to really go through a process of evolution. A lot of this you can find in the works like of the Theosophical Society that was headed by Blavatsky, and she talks about the different root races. And she talks about this race right now, the fifth, that we are the fifth root race, but within every root race, there are 7 sub-race categories. And we are the 5th sub-race of the 5th root race, getting ready to evolve into the 6th sub-race. So change is right around the corner, and it's happening now. Most people, are very unaware of exactly what's transpiring. When I was in the Virgin Islands this summer, doing a series of events, workshops and such, we were driving down the street on St. Thomas, and we were talking about the changes. And I said to the brothers, I said, well, I said, have you noticed that the sun is white? The sun is not yellow any longer, it's white. And they said, what? And they looked up into the sky and they looked at a white sun. They slammed on the brakes in the middle of the street and jumped out of the truck to look at this white sun. And they were like, oh my God, the sun is white, like the moon. The sun is white. And a lot of people don't even realize, because we're on some other program. We're not locked in to the realities that we really, really should be locked into, that pretty much feed and create the design and passageway for a much greater proactively designed experience in moving out of 3D. We have become so complacent and just comfortable being in this environment. And this environment is getting ready to turn itself inside out. And if you haven't made the right preparations, you're going to go inside out along with it.
Yeah, I'm gonna
There's
stop. I'm gonna
so
I'm gonna
many
stop you
things
there,
taking
Wayne.
place.
Wayne, I'm gonna.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's a very deep subject. Maybe I should have looked at these questions first. That was the first question. Me, somebody needs to mute.
No.
Okay. We got another one. Brother Katabasi. Kat, do you wanna articulate your question?
Yes. And thank you, Wayne, for being here. Thank you for writing the book, Ancient Future. I commend you for the effort. I think it's a tremendous piece of work. And I was originally drawn to the book from the narrative Poe and I've read it a couple of times. And when I first read it, I thought it was a very striking piece of ancient writings, and I was wondering why it was not discussed more in wider circles. And even though after reading it a couple of times, I find that there are still what I would call metaphorical phrases and things that still elude me. And so my question to you is, just the average person reading the narrative, what are some of the points that one could or should take from reading and studying that narrative?
Wow. Well, I mean, you're looking at the beginnings, and in Poemandris, its focus is the refinement and the cultivation, of humanity, or a human entity moving from its place in the higher realms into a more three-dimensional construct, which allows it to operate in accordance to the natural laws or divine laws of nature. And through that, it pulls in the stellar or celestial bodies and their influence as well into the development of the mind body that we as human beings walk with. And it gives history, some of the history that it gives, it refers to, hermaphroditic, entities or spaces where we have moved through a variety of changes and evolutionary strata to get to where we are right now. And as quiet as it's kept, we're really, we've moved into a de-evolutionary, strata as that pertains to where we've been, where we're coming from. And a lot of that is because we've had very specific designs imprinted upon us to make sure that our movement into mind-body awareness is very controlled.
Okay, thank you for that.
All right. Brother Keedy, would you like to articulate your question to Brother Wayne? You're muted. You're muted. You're muted.
Absolutely. First of all, we want to congratulate our beloved brother Ndugu for all of the many years of commitment you have done to keep us on the front edge. We are so very grateful. I hope that this question is not distracting from the central theme that you're bringing to the community today. I'm sure you will let us know. But when you talk about the work you've done with the great Dr. Ivan van Sertima, it prompted this question. Is Pan-Africanism merely a historical relic from which we do derive much pride in identification, or is it a dynamic pathway and a bridge to sovereign and sustainable development for the 1.754 billion people of African heritage in the world today?
Yeah, the way I would answer that, if indeed in ancient future on page 203, this prophecy by most people refer to him as Nostradamus, but he was probably one of the greatest seers of our epoch that we know of, that has made his prophetic insights, into the general historical and current day narrative. And this is what he says. He says, when Saturn is in Aquarius and Sagittarius is ascendant, disease, famine, and death by war as the century approaches renewal. Neptune will shake fire from the Earth's center, causing a great earthquake in the new city, which I interpret as New York. Two great rocks will make war a long time. The sound of a rare bird will be heard on the pipe of the highest story. Death and cries are heard within the great circle or the earth, and the bushel of wheat will rise so high that man will eat his fellow man. The blood of religions will flow freely in great abundance like water. Woe, ruin, and hardship to the clergy. But in time, the divine word will bring mystic deed, body, soul, and spirit, having all power. Within the circle will be a great and sudden flood. One has no place or land to go to. Humane realm and angelic offspring will come, causing lasting peace and unity. Peace is maintained, long awaited. He will never come in Europe. He will appear in Asia, one issued from the great Hermes. He will be over all the kings of the east, and Saturn again late will come back, and dominion will be changed to the black nations. So I feel we're in a place and time where when you listen to Bob Marley, he talks about the trials and tribulations that as a race we have to undergo, even though we have been through a lot for thousands of years already. This is end game now. And this is what I try to impart to people, is that this is the end game. And this is where we have to be refined enough to step up, because that cosmic and planetary intention for who and what we are and what our responsibilities are that we have completely forgotten about will be put back upon us. And Pan-Africanism will become definitely a base reality, a foundational construct for the movement. And I believe, just the absorption of Blacks in the diaspora to move not just back into and onto the African continent, but to carry the genius that the African continent, its culture, has bequeathed to us that we have forgotten about, regardless of where we are on the planet. I believe that, as we move into this new period, we have to really create the understanding that we're not going to move into 5D with the same antiquated, worn out geographical construct that we have been using in this three-dimensional plane of existence. Things are going to change. Africa is changing right now. They're saying, well, it's splitting in two, but when you read the prophetic works of Edgar Cayce, he says that Africa is going to split into thirds. Now, geologists that are examining this say, well, it's going to take thousands of years for that to happen. But those who have the understanding of how the earth really works knows that the planet spinning on its rotational field can stop in an instant and spin in the opposite direction, which it has done numerous times, which again, I talk about in my book, Ancient Future. I go into that so-called stellar phenomena that creates that kind of shift on the planet, which means that continents can be rearranged within the twinkling of an eye. So Pan-Africanism is about the movement of information that has been refined and cultivated on the continent, but has been lost and forgotten.
Thank you.
All right. Now we have Brother Ali. You have a question. Would you like to take yourself off mute and ask Brother Wayne?
Yes, I was curious about, I'm starting to see a lot of young people join this movement by Dan Calloway, saying that slavery never existed and that the history was told to us in reverse. And we do know that a lot of history was modified and given to us, untruthfully. But I'm starting to see this movement, and I was just curious, what are your thoughts about that?
There's so much
They
that,
call themselves Indians.
yeah, right. What I would say is that these are individuals who have more than likely never left the American plate and gone to Africa, and especially, West Africa, to see the remnants of, what still remains from the slave trade. But I think that people today, and this is something I guess that has been developing, over the last 25 years and getting stronger and stronger, as a concept and philosophy of exactly, how we have, been supplanted, from one place to another, and that, it's easy to say slavery never existed, I mean, some things are so ridiculous that, you really don't want to give it a whole lot of your own personal energy and thought. You just kind of allow that to exist within its own sphere of existence and let it sort itself out, because the truth is always going to rise to the top like cream. Always. That's the nature of just the universal design of things, and so a lot of what I see today that is reflective of what you just said, but maybe some other categories, like, I've heard, Africans, did not, based on the work of Ivan van Sertima, the Africans didn't discover, Mesoamerica, that we had no, imprint, on that landmass, and blah, 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 blah. And that a lot of the work that Ivan did was tainted and, was designed to misinform, and, so things of that nature. I just kind of, I'm not going to get into a debate on things that I know are either utterly ridiculous or that may carry, some element of truth. One of the things that Ivan and I discussed, based on information that he was given and information that I researched, was that, a lot of those heads, Olmec heads, may not have come, from the African plate. They may have already been there. I mean, there are things that have transpired in our history that makes our place in this day and time somewhat scientifically driven, because if you put it out there with respect to where we've been, where we come from, what we've accomplished, it's going to be unbelievable. And that was one of the reasons, like in Ancient Future, a lot of the really documented unbelievable information is in the footnotes. That's where ancient future really gets deep, is in the footnotes. Because there I talk about, for example, this one geologist, Clifford L. Burdick, who was doing excavations in a dried riverbed, the Biloxi riverbed in Texas, where he came upon these footprints of, as he said, a human being of formidable size. The footprints were like nothing ever discovered, that we know of in these days and time, in the last few hundred years. But as he followed the movement of these footprints, what he discovered right next to these human footprints were the footprints of a dinosaur, which moved with him for about 20 some odd feet, walking side by side, which gives us insight. Now, people will say, wow, is that real? He took molds of the footprints, sent them to every high-end reputable scientific institute on the planet, and they all confirmed that they were authentic. But you're never going to hear about this. The closest you'll get to that is one or two places: the footnotes in Ancient Future, or a book called Forbidden Archaeology, The Hidden History of the Human Race, which is about 1,000 pages. If I tell people that they discovered a nuclear generating plant in Gabon that dates back 2 million years. 2 million years.
Well, that's supposed to be a natural occurrence.
It's supposed to be a natural occurrence.
I'm kidding.
But in the analysis, they know that the only way that particular isotope could be created was through mechanized means. They know that's the only way that could be maintained and still have, a presence.
Wayne,
Yeah.
you touched on something that I had been studying for a little while. And the way that they found out is because France would get their uranium from Gabon. And they got some uranium that was already used, and that's what caused them to go there.
Right. And every high-end, again, reputable magazine and institution researched that information and verified it, that there was already, a nuclear plant in operation, an operational plant that was dated back 2 million years ago. Now, this ties in to what has transpired in Mesoamerica, because Ivan did a debate with, this professor, I believe it was Arizona University. And of course, Ivan embarrassed him to death. But afterwards, several archaeologists approached him and asked him to go to a private room in the back of the building, which he did. He accompanied, them there. And they showed him pictures and gave him information and proof of a nuclear war that had taken place in Mesoamerica. And Ivan implored them, can you write about this in our next journal? And they said, there's no way. We're not even supposed to be telling you this information.
Wow.
But there was a nuclear war that took place in Mesoamerica. Now, when you get into, again, what we come from and who we are, it boggles the mind. It really, really does. And we are so far away from where we really should be. We have been so co-opted culturally. Even those of us who believe we're great thinkers, we're just a shadow of what we've been in previous incarnations, a shadow. So one of the things, the reason I do these retreats is to get people to bump up, to step into a different and higher resonance of themselves so that they can be prepared. Because see, the thing is this, because we are culturally inebriated, we don't have the awareness, the sense of being of where we are right now in time and how important this era that we're standing in really is. We think we have tomorrow, and we don't. Nothing is promised, nothing. And right now, we have so many entities that are creating massive distractions so that a plan can be implemented that is not going to be good for humanity. And I'm talking about on a global scale. And it's about us now locking down, somehow, some way, recognizing the importance of where we are and what time it is, and get some internal work done to work on ourselves.
All right. All right. Brother Ali, did that answer your question? You muted yourself. You muted yourself.
Yes, it did. And I noticed that I share a lot of the same thoughts, as far as interacting with people such as that, as Dr. Wayne.
All right. All right. Thank you for your question. Now, we're going to kind of switch gears a little bit. And Wayne, you just mentioned that. Sister Celeste put in the chat, she'd like to know, and let's share your flyer here. Is that it? I think this is it for your trip. She'd like to know your itinerary for your Costa Rica trip.
Yeah, this was a general flyer that found its way onto Facebook, but those of you that really want more specific information can email me and I can send you the flyer that has a landing page, which has the entire breakdown of not only the individuals that are working with me in this, but what our focus is going to be. And one of the things, our focus, because I've been very profoundly involved over the last few years with dealing with what we refer to as the reticular activating system. And the reticular activating system is that area of the brain that really creates our daily realities. And if your reticular activating system is processing dysfunctional information, then that is what becomes of your reality, because that's what becomes of you. So one of the things that we'll be doing on this retreat is redesigning through various practices and meditations, just reformatting, redesigning the reticular activating system, because the reticular activating system is deep. Is deep. This gives you an example of how it works. If you believe,
Can you spell it?
yeah, I can spell it. If you believe that you are less than, if you believe you are poverty stricken, if you believe that you are unlike, the reticular activating system, literally, as you step into the world, goes out into the environment to find all of those things to
support.
substantiate that reality about yourself that you carry. That's how powerful this mechanism is. So if you shift and change the functionality of the reticular activating and take it from a low base vibrational frequency into a higher, more refined and cultivated vibrational frequency that's all about abundance as opposed to lack, then it automatically goes out into the environment to find all of those things that create the dynamic and the understanding of an ongoing field of abundance for your person. I mean, think of it. How many of you have at any time during the course of your life, have found that you've done something really great? And now, when I say great, I mean something that makes you feel really substantial, locked in, and you were able to create something out of that was very abundantly directed. And all of a sudden, it seems like everything begins to fall into place. And one sphere of abundance gives way to another sphere of abundance. And you have this ongoing experience that makes you feel like, whoa, what have I stepped into? What is this? That's how the reticular activating system works. So yeah, reticular activating is RETICULAR, and then activating, ACTIVATING, and system.
Right, and Sister Saraswati has put that in the chat for us as well. Thank you, because I'm a little challenged with spelling, so I'm glad that that's in there. All right. Can I share? Brother Sebastian, yes, go ahead. Go ahead, brother.
So, Brother Wayne, so are you saying with this reticular activating system, if we do not tap into and take advantage of speaking it into existence ourselves, then we allow others to, I guess the other side of that would be was it neural linguistic programming, where that others can program us to do it the way they want us to do it?
Exactly. That's exactly what happens. And that's the reality we've been living. See, this is the thing. They know all of this. They know so much more than we can even dream about. Because we live in this place of limitation. And we have not arrived at the understanding that there is no limits to what it is that we can do and where we can go. And that's what we have to cultivate now, because the game is getting ready to get super deep. No, not Phoenix.
No, that's not.
No,
That's
Wayne B.
not.
Chandler at
Okay.
Gmail.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
So now when you say that, now I want to go back to your footnotes as it relates to the foot. And I'm glad you pointed that out, because I do have that book, Forbidden Archaeology. Now it allows me to go back into cross-reference your footnote with that area in that book, and I thank you for that.
Yeah, that book is amazing, man. And what's really fascinating is the if you all can see this, because this is our reality now.
Are you sharing your screen?
No, I'm just going to hold this up to
Oh yeah, the grid.
the planetary grid. So the way the grid operates, the grid is like a huge tuning fork that envelops the planet. So right now, with all of the cosmological frequencies that are being projected onto the planet, they are first absorbed into the grids. And from the grids, they vibrate out onto the planet and impact everything in the biosphere. So if you go into the back of Ancient Future, you'll find the
what
work
page?
that I did on the
page?
grids.
What page?
And
What page?
The grid is on page 188.
Yeah, but what I talk about is on page in the back.
Are you going into the footnotes?
Yeah, in the footnotes is going to be on page.
So I have this here. Oops.
Yeah, but it's in the footnotes. That's where I go deep with it. Is in the footnotes, because I talk about Sinkowitz and another author who did extensive research on the grids. And that's what I'm looking for now. And okay, it's on page 232. It's footnote 220. That's where it begins.
220.
Got it.
Now, this is what's happening, and this is why doing internal work is so imperative right now. Because I've been, I can't say working with, but I've been in communication with this one individual who has his operation in the UK. And he's what you call a biogeologist. And he studies the grids.
That it, Wayne, right there? Oh God. I just had it.
Minister Imhotep, can you maybe screenshot it and send it to us? You know what he's saying is complicated enough for my little brain to watch the screen moving too. I'm really trying to understand this. I've never heard of this concept of the grid.
Okay. Let's see. Me.
So what was so deep was that he's been looking at the grids for a couple of decades, but he said within the last 10 years, what he noticed was that the grid lines were becoming more and more activated on the planet. Now, we refer to a lot of the grid lines as ley lines. That's what we categorize them as. We categorize them as ley lines.
And completely different from meridians, nothing to do with the meridians?
No, it has a lot to do with meridians. It has a lot to do with the meridians in the human body, because the meridians in the human body are our grid lines, and they sync up with the grid lines on the planet. How many of you all have heard of, I call it earthing. That's where you go out in your bare feet, you stand on the earth, and you get energized from the planet as the energy moves from the planet up into the chakra points on the bottoms of the feet. So the way that happens is you have these grid lines or ley lines that move energy through and all around the planet. That's why it's possible for you to accomplish that. Now, what is happening now is that the major grids are coming online to be profoundly active. And when they reach this point of completion, which this guy says will take place at the very end of 2024, there will be a synchronicity, a hookup between the grid lines in our bodies with the projected energy emanating from the grid lines coming from the planet. And I believe, and this is conjecture, you know, on my part, but I believe that those who have done work to open and activate their own internal grid lines will be in synchronicity to the point where shift of consciousness and bodily removal of toxic debris will be automatic. All of these things that they're heaping upon humanity, I mean, they're dropping crap out of the skies like microdust that Gates has created, which when you inhale it, it makes its way through lung tissue and sits in the body. I hear planes flying over my neighborhood 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Shouldn't be no planes flying over my neighborhood at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And this is something that's happening, as I found out, across the country in Black communities. Planes always flying over the neighborhoods, and you better believe they're dropping crap. And even if they're not dropping crap in the middle of the night, which I know they are, because there's no other reason why they should be there, you have, just the planes that appear in the sky in midday. I mean, the chemtrails that have been analyzed in terms of chemical compounds and particulates, they have found mRNA, compounds in those chemtrails. So the thing that I've learned is that the more we upgrade our frequency, our biofrequency, it makes us invulnerable to all of these different programs and toxicities that they're trying to employ, because they're coming at us through and from a 3-dimensional construct. We're vibrating and elevating ourselves into a 4th-dimensional construct, of which 3D has no contact or connection to and with.
Whoa, has your head exploded yet, everyone? Because we've we've gotten a lot.
Almost.
Wow, Wayne.
He's confirming that they're targeting us.
No question.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, brother? All right. Okay. Let's see. Celeste put something in there. Let's see, somebody else put something in there. Let's see. So she said, "Are those grid lines connected to the meridians in the body?" And you answered that question.
Yes.
And then, Sister Darnisha, would you like to ask your question?
Sure. It was just that, do you believe there to be a significance at being at the 00 latitude and longitude? I've been told by folks that, Ghana is kind of the center there, at least on the white man's map. It's 0-degree latitude and 0-degree longitude is just off the coast. I was there during like a special celestial time a couple of years ago. I don't know if you've heard of Rabbi Kohen, but a pretty profound brother as well. And he talked about how being at that place at that particular time, it was a time where like all the planets had aligned a couple of years ago. And I had never really heard of any of that either. I was just wondering, what do you think about that? Is there significance to that zero place? Is that really the center of the world? And does it mean anything?
I think that it has significance. It definitely has significance. Whether that would be the center of the world or not, I can't say, and I think one of the things that we have to keep in mind is that right now the planet is shifting. We're going to go through a polar shift, but it's not going to be to the extreme that it has undergone in previous, epochs. But we are going to go through a shifting of the poles. So when you have a shifting of the poles, the rotational field shifts, And longitude and latitudinal coordinates also shift, so then you begin to look at, like new points of reference for what constitutes the center of anything, and so that's really, what's really important right now is to not look so much at where we are, but also where we're going and what that looks like. Because it's imperative that we have some kind of a internal plan for ourselves as it relates to the shifting and changing of the environment that we are a part of. Because the biospheric reality is shifting, So if that is or could be 0 point, that's just for right now. It's not going to be that in a few years.
Right. Did that answer your question, Sister Donishi?
Yes, thank you.
And everybody there, regardless of the planetary arrangements, the government is still very much asleep. So we need more planets to come in to.
Hey, can I share something, Wayne? I found my Gabon thing. Can I share that with you?
Yeah.
All right. So back a while, I did this thing.
Yeah, because you were the one that sent it to me.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, you sent it to me years and years ago, and
Okay.
it took me years to finally believe that you were talking about something that was real. And I
Yeah.
said to myself, let me check this information that Emma was talking about. Let's see, but you had sent me that, I'd say about maybe 4 years prior.
Okay. So, yeah, they found this U-235 in Gabon, and this is where Gabon is on the continent. And this is the location. They're asking the question, did humans create this 1.8 billion years ago?
And what's so interesting is America is the only country that refuses to give it, validity, to give the date validity. America wants to say, oh, it's just 1 million years.
Yeah, they said it was functioning for over 500,000 years.
Yeah.
Can you back up one slide, please?
Sure. That one? Is that the one?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Yeah, that
So what can we surmise from so much of the new evidence that's coming out, and we're finding these very old civilizations, but yet they have some modern technology. Can we assume that there just have been other civilizations, much like this one, but earlier, that arose and accomplished deeds and technologies and disappeared, perhaps under the influence of one of these shifts that you mentioned? Because the information would have to almost just completely disappear and then start again.
Exactly. And that's exactly what happens. You know, but this is the thing, and this is a slight twist on the information because see, they go out in, they analyze, they do the research, they find these remnants that existed in these these civilizations in deep antiquity. And they see that, wow, this is a computer that already existed. Oh, wow, this is, you know, a nuclear plant that already existed. Wow, this is an aircraft that already existed. So they take this information and they build on that with their modern interpretation, which allows them to create, you know, based on the ancient premise of this design, their new and modern interpretation of what that could be in current or modern civilization. So everything, our civilization, if you want to call it that, you know, Sheikh Anta Diop referred to it, you know, his book, Civilization of Barbarism, you know, and so this ain't civilization. And it ain't even close to civilization.
Yeah.
Because the thing that our ancestors had, you know, working for them was that there was a integration of spiritual design with intellectual formatting. And it reminds me of some years back in the 70s, and I was sitting with this one of the great masters from India, brother by the name of Swami Satchidananda. He was the guru of a sister by the name of Alice Coltrane, who was John Coltrane's wife. And we were sitting and you know, having some food and just kind of talking back a little bit, you know, back and forth. And I asked him, I said, well, how do you interpret hell? And he said, hell is intellectuality without spirituality. And that's where we are today. When you look at the planet as a whole, there's no spiritual fabric anywhere holding this thing together or helping it to move forward. The great ages that we've undergone have, yes, wiped away a lot of those civilizations, and the ones that are still above ground, which are found in Antarctica, you know, they've put all kind of like, you know, distraction.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Is there anything, Dr. Chandler, that we can do to counteract the effects of these chemtrails? They are so disturbing when you see them, and to stand with our feet on the earth to try and get that, this chemtrail matter is going into the grass and all of that. So what can we do about that, please?
For me, it's my practices. I have a daily practice. I don't go a day without doing them. And those practices are the activation of my internal grid system that allows me to vibrate on a totally different level. So, you know, knock on wood, I have not been affected by any of the things that they have unleashed on the human family. When COVID was rampant, I did not slow my roll. Didn't slow my roll. I kept doing what I do, going where I needed to go, and I never came close to catching, that whatever it was. And but I'm not doing careless stuff like, I'm not going to go out and get the shot, and I do take different types of compounds periodically just to kind of keep my physical operating, without obstruction. Many of you may have heard of the documentary called Died Suddenly, where a lot of these doctors, have been reporting these agents, these bioagents within the human body that seem to be creating a lot of, issues. I've had several friends that have just keeled over, so I believe that, again, just going back to increasing your own resonance, your own vibrational resonance is imperative. There are two people. One is a woman who grew up in NSA, and she has done extensive research on the different I guess you would call them just the different operational systems that project these new levels of physical, mental discombobulation upon the human entity. And she has compared these particular, biological agents and frequency derived agents to Qigong and other forms of advanced breathing practices which elevate and expand one's energy field, internal and external. And she gives a brilliant breakdown on how once you expand your resonance, you're invulnerable to all of the things that they drop on you.
So Wayne, will you be showing those practices on your retreat?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's what the whole retreat is about. The theme of the retreat, because every retreat I do, I give a theme, and the theme is always based and focused on the here and now. So this retreat is focused on the here and now, what we're getting ready to go into, and we're going to be stepping into it in 2025. We will be stepping into it in 2025. And if we listen to Klaus Schwab and the WEF, the World Economic Forum, who are the globalists that dictate this planetary reality, all these Democrats and Republican, that's just misdirection. That's all it is. They control all governments, all of them. They control all the governments, and they dictate direction that those governments need to take to get the exact program in place that they want to have in place. So what are we looking at in America? In America, we're looking at the coming of the social credit scoring system. In May of next year, we'll be on universal basic income. We have the coming of the 15-minute cities. I think did we talk about the 15-minute cities the last time I was on?
I don't think so. No, I don't think we did. Are you saying yes, Tony? We did talk about it? Tony thinks we did.
I think we touched on it, if I'm remembering correctly. I remember that term, and that would be the only reason why I would remember that is if it was said to me.
Because the 15-minute cities, everybody is locked into very specific areas within the city, and you have to act in accordance to information or directions, that you're being given. And if you don't act in accordance to what it is you're being given to do, then money's withheld because you're on UBI. So your money's is withheld. Food is withheld. I'm not going to share my screen to do that, but let me tell you, and you all can look this up yourself. I want you to check out this brother. He's on YouTube. Please check this brother out because he's a fantastic researcher and he stays on top of everything that's going on in this country. Everything. And he ain't Republican, he ain't Democrat, he's just calling it as it is. You all need to check this brother out. But one of the things that has taken place on the planet, but definitely here in America, is a company called Tyson Foods. Most of you, I'm sure, have heard of Tyson Foods. Tyson Foods entered into a national agreement with all of the fast food restaurants to begin using bugs in all of their recipes. Now, this is significant because Klaus Schwab, in an interview 4 years ago, said that we were going to move into a time where humanity would be ingesting bugs and not the foods that we're used to eating. So they've already made inroads into all the fast food, outlets, establishments, businesses in the country. And in 2025, the things they begin turning out to people going in and purchasing them will be bugs. And I can guarantee you this, they're not going to tell you.
Wayne, you didn't give us the name of the brother on YouTube. Can you?
The name of his site is This is John Williams. And this is John, and then it has the little underscore mark, and then John Williams. This brother, he used to be a really big time real estate agent in LA. And his clientele were celebrities. He got out of that and got into what he's doing now. He has another business, of course, but this brother drops information, man, that is mind-boggling. And when you see what they have in store for you, all of you all are going to come and want to be on the retreat.
Okay, we're going to hold it there. It's 6:29. My head is going to explode. But let me share something before we go. Just one thing that I wanted to share, because we were talking about we were talking when Wayne had mentioned the dinosaurs and the human footprints walking by the dinosaurs. Here's something that's in stone. Now, this is found in the temples at Angkor Wat. So, now I don't have to tell you that looks like a sister. And there's these huge temples, black faces on them. Angkor Wat, Cambodia. It's the largest religious monument in the world, 400 acres, etc. This is what they left behind. I included this picture. This was that brother that went to the wrong house, and he was wounded by the homeowner. But he looks remarkably to me like these people here, representing the 9 planets. So this is Surya, the sun. This is the sun, and these are the 9 planets. I got this from this guy. He does a lot of research on ancient temples. Pavreen Mohan. He has a lot of YouTube videos. But one of the things that he puts in here, I'm going to get to it real quick. Is trying to skip all these. So here, there's this figure riding on an elephant with 4 tusks. There's an elephant, and he's got 4 tusks. Not 2, but 4. And experts say that these 4-tusked elephants became extinct 2 million years ago. And here is the skeletal remains of them. So there are some things out there that tells us that the Earth civilization is a lot older than what we've been told. And lastly, this is now this picture came out kind of rough, but this was that trip I was talking about where we went to Mount Shasta. And there's Wayne there, kind of unclear. And there's Brother Alaman. Sister Valeria has gone on now, and her daughter Shambalia. There's Valeria and Sister Floy. And this is Minister Alicia and her family. They were a lot younger then. Is that Aziza that you're holding, Alicia?
Yes, that was Aziza. She, I think she was not even a year at that time. She was like 6 or 7 months old or less.
And how old is she now?
She's 21.
21. And this is Avante, right?
Yep. It's Avante, then Nane, and then Asada.
Yeah. And here Wayne is showing us, and there's Mama Ngina, Aziza, Sabrina, Akanke. Anyway, I just wanted to share something. And this is Harvetta here. That was a great trip, and we learned a lot that trip. And so I hope that there are some that will be able to attend and be a part of Brother Wayne's retreat in Costa Rica I'm glad, let's see, somebody put something else in the chat. Let's see. I saw a video recently where they were showing fake food being distributed. Blueberries and avocados in particular, like rubber. Thank you so much. Now I need to throw out my blueberries. This is all right.
Yeah, yeah, that was big news. I mean, it actually and blueberries even tagged organic coming from Whole Foods.
Lord have mercy. All right. One more thing for next week. We're going to be talking about, I have one more thing to share. So this sister did this she did this video, and she's showing that her language, her Bantu language called Chitonga language in Southern Africa, is identical to the ancient Egyptian language. And she shows us where the vowels are. She's going to be coming and sharing that information with us next week. Her name is Yenyen Yenzi. All right. I don't have a flyer for her, but I just wanted to put that out. All right. Let's take ourselves off mute and give Brother Wayne a big round of applause.
Yes, thank you, Baba.
It's much
Yeah,
appreciated.
thank you for having
Great
me.
job. Great job.
Dr. Chandler.
Thank you for your great works.
Wonderful.
Dante.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Wayne, you're the man. Anything? Oh,
It was, yeah, it was a great share and great questions, you know. That was really, that was a beautiful and powerful thing.
all right. All right. Well, I'm glad that you all could join us. I'm so thankful that you could be with us, Wayne. And there's nothing else that we should be thinking about, talking about, or doing something about. We're going to close this session. Give thanks and praise to all those that were able to attend. Great input. And we'll see you next time. Life, prosperity, and health. Live up.
Live up.
Blessings. Blessings.
So Wayne, why don't you, oh, he left. Okay, I'll call.
Uncle Johnson.
Live up.